What happens when two of the most outspoken voices in American politics sit across from each other, and one of them decides they've had enough of playing nice? The ABC News studio became ground zero for one of the most explosive political confrontations ever broadcast on live television. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump, once allies, now facing off in a way nobody saw coming. The tension was immediate. The anger was real. And what unfolded next left viewers across the nation stunned. Before we get into this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, telling us what you think about what you're about to witness. Trust me, you're going to want to share your thoughts on this one. The interview started innocently enough. George Stephanopoulos sat between them, introducing the segment as a discussion about the future of the Republican Party. Trump leaned back in his chair, that familiar confidence radiating from him. Greene sat upright, her expression already showing signs of something brewing beneath the surface. Stephanopoulos barely finished his opening question before things took a turn. "Mr. President," Stephanopoulos began, "you've called for unity within the party. How do you respond to members who say you're not doing enough to support grassroots conservatives?" Trump jumped in immediately. "Well, George, I think we've done more for grassroots conservatives than anyone in history, frankly. Nobody has fought harder for the forgotten men and women of this country. We've delivered on every promise, and the party has never been stronger." Greene's jaw tightened. Her eyes narrowed slightly, and anyone paying attention could see the shift in her demeanor. She waited, letting Trump continue his answer, but her body language screamed disagreement. "We have people," Trump continued, "some of them very vocal, very loud, who think they know better than everyone else. But at the end of the day, we need to be smart. We need to win elections. We can't just be angry all the time. We have to be strategic." That was the moment. Greene's hand came down on the armrest of her chair, not quite a slam, but forceful enough to make a point. "Strategic?" Greene interrupted, her voice cutting through Trump's response. "Mr. President, with all due respect, the grassroots doesn't want strategy. They want fighters. They want people who won't back down." Trump turned to her, his expression shifting from confident to irritated in an instant. "Marjorie, I think I know a little something about fighting. I think I've proven that over and over." "You have," Greene shot back, not missing a beat. "But what they're seeing now is compromise. What they're seeing is deals with people who've spent years trying to destroy you, trying to destroy us. And they're asking where the fighter went." Stephanopoulos attempted to moderate. "Congresswoman Greene, are you saying the president has become too moderate?" But Trump didn't let her answer. "Too moderate? That's ridiculous. Nobody's been tougher than me. But you know what? Sometimes you have to work with people you don't like to get things done. That's called governing. Maybe some people need to learn that." The air in the studio grew heavier. Greene leaned forward, her voice rising slightly. "Governing? The people who voted for you didn't vote for you to govern like every other politician. They voted for you to shake things up, to drain the swamp. And now you're telling us we need to work with the swamp?" Trump's face reddened. "I did shake things up. I did more in 4 years than most presidents do in 8. And I did it while fighting off attacks from every direction, including from people in my own party who didn't have the spine to stand with me when it mattered." "And those of us who did stand with you," Greene countered, her voice steady but intense. "Those of us who fought for you when everyone else was running away. We're supposed to just accept that now you want to play nice with the establishment? The same establishment that impeached you twice?" Stephanopoulos tried again. "Mr. President, how do you respond to that?" Trump shifted in his seat, pointing a finger in Greene's direction. "You want to talk about standing with me? I appreciate loyalty, I really do. But loyalty goes both ways, Marjorie. And when you're out there saying things that make it harder for us to win elections, that make it harder for us to bring people into the tent, that's not helping me. That's hurting the movement." Greene's eyes flashed. "What things? What have I said that's so terrible? That I believe in putting America first? That I believe in protecting our borders? That I believe the people deserve representatives who actually represent them and not corporate donors?" "You know exactly what I'm talking about," Trump said, his voice getting louder. "Some of the stuff you say, some of the things you promote, it makes us look crazy. It makes normal people think twice about supporting us. And we need normal people to win." The accusation hung in the air. Greene's expression hardened, her voice dropping to a more dangerous tone. "So now I'm the problem? I'm the one making us look bad? Mr. President, I have never wavered. I have never backed down. I have taken every attack, every lie, every smear campaign, and I've kept fighting. Can you say the same about some of the people you're defending now?" Trump leaned forward, matching her intensity. "I don't need to defend anyone to you, Marjorie. I've been doing this a lot longer than you have. I built a movement before you ever thought about running for Congress. So maybe, just maybe, you should listen when I tell you what works and what doesn't." Stephanopoulos, sensing the explosion building, attempted to redirect. "Congressman Greene, it sounds like you believe the president has lost touch with the base. Is that accurate?" Greene took a breath, clearly trying to control her anger. "What I believe is that the people who put their faith in this movement, who believed we were going to change Washington, they're watching right now and they're wondering what happened. They're wondering why we're making deals with people who hate us. They're wondering why we're not fighting harder." Trump's response was immediate and sharp. "They're wondering. Let me tell you what they should be wondering. They should be wondering why some members of Congress spend more time on television attacking their own party than they do actually passing legislation. They should be wondering why some people think being loud is the same thing as being effective." Greene's composure cracked slightly, her voice rising. "Attacking our own party? I'm defending our party from people who want to turn it into something it's not. Every single time I speak out, it's because I'm fighting for the people you claim to represent. But apparently that's not good enough anymore." "It's not about being good enough," Trump shot back. "It's about being smart. It's about knowing when to fight and when to step back and think strategically. You go out there every day swinging at everything that moves, and you know what that does? It exhausts people. It makes them tune out." Greene shook her head, disbelief evident on her face. "Exhausts people? Mr. President, the people aren't exhausted. They're energized. They're awake. They see what's happening to this country, and they want representatives who feel the same urgency they do. They don't want calculated political moves. They want authenticity." "Authenticity?" Trump leaned back, a bitter laugh escaping. "You think you have the monopoly on authenticity? I've been authentic my entire life. I say what I think. But I also know how to win. And winning means sometimes you don't say every single thing that pops into your head." The irony of that statement wasn't lost on anyone watching. Stephanopoulos seized the moment. "Mr. President, critics would say that's exactly what you've done throughout your career. Say everything that pops into your head. Why is it different when Congresswoman Greene does it?" Trump waved his hand dismissively. "Because I knew what I was doing. I knew exactly how far to push, when to push, and who to push. There's an art to it. You can't just be reckless." "Reckless?" Greene repeated, the word dripping with indignation. "So that's what we're calling it now. Standing up for election integrity is reckless. Questioning the narrative is reckless. Refusing to cave to pressure is reckless." "When it costs us elections, yes," Trump said firmly. "When it gives the fake news media ammunition to use against us, yes. When it makes it harder for Republicans to win in swing states, absolutely yes." Greene stood her ground. "And what about principles, Mr. President? What about standing for something even when it's hard? Even when it's unpopular? You used to talk about that all the time. You used to say you didn't care what the media thought. You didn't care what the polls said. You were going to do what was right. What changed?" "Nothing changed," Trump insisted, his voice growing defensive. "I still believe all of that. But I also learned that if you don't win, none of it matters. You can have all the principles in the world, but if you're not in power, you can't do anything with them." "So we compromise," Greene said flatly. "We water down our message. We play nice with people who despise everything we stand for. We become exactly what we said we wouldn't become." Trump pointed at her again, his frustration boiling over. "You want to know what compromise looks like? Compromise looks like getting 70% of what you want instead of 0%. Compromise looks like living to fight another day, instead of going down in flames because you refuse to be reasonable." "Reasonable," Greene scoffed. That's what they always say. Be reasonable. Be moderate. Don't rock the boat. And then you wake up one day and realize you didn't change anything. You just became part of the system you promised to fight. Stephanopoulos jumped in, trying to direct the conversation. It sounds like there's a fundamental disagreement here about the direction of the party. Mr. President, do you believe there's room in the Republican Party for voices like Congresswoman Greene's? Trump hesitated just for a second, but it was enough. Greene caught it immediately. He doesn't, she said, answering for him. That hesitation right there tells you everything you need to know. There's room for everyone except people who won't fall in line. There's room for everyone except people who actually meant what they said. That's not true, Trump protested. There's room for everyone who wants to win. There's room for everyone who understands that this is bigger than any one person's ego. The word ego seemed to strike a nerve with Greene. Her voice dropped lower, more controlled, but somehow more forceful. My ego? Mr. President, I didn't get into politics for my ego. I got into it because I watched what was happening to this country, and I couldn't stay silent anymore. I ran for office because people like me, regular people, felt like nobody was listening to them. And now you're sitting here telling me that I'm the problem? I'm telling you that you need to think about the bigger picture, Trump said. I'm telling you that sometimes the people who shout the loudest aren't the ones who accomplish the most. And sometimes, Greene countered, the people who compromise the most end up accomplishing nothing at all, except losing the trust of the people who believed in them. The studio fell silent for a moment. The weight of her words hung heavy in the air. Trump's jaw clenched, his eyes locked on Greene with an intensity that made it clear this had become far more personal than political. Stephanopoulos, recognizing the gravity of the moment, pressed forward. Congresswoman, are you saying you've lost trust in President Trump? Greene took a breath, seemingly measuring her next words carefully. I'm saying that the president I supported, the president I defended, the president I believed in, he understood that sometimes you have to burn bridges to build something new. He understood that the establishment wasn't going to accept us no matter how nice we played. He understood that real change requires real courage. And I still understand that, Trump interjected. But I also understand that you can't burn every bridge and expect to have anywhere to stand. You need allies, Marjorie. You need people who might not agree with you on everything but who can help you get things done. The people don't want things to get done through backroom deals, Greene said. They want transparency. They want honesty. They want to know that when they vote for someone, that person is going to keep their promises, not negotiate them away the first time it becomes convenient. Trump's face flushed deeper red. Convenient? You think any of this has been convenient? You think it's been easy? I've been investigated, impeached, attacked, sued, and dragged through the mud for years. And I kept fighting. So don't lecture me about keeping promises. I'm not lecturing you, Greene said, her voice rising to match his. I'm reminding you why people supported you in the first place. It wasn't because you were polished. It wasn't because you played by the rules. It was because you didn't. Trump slammed his hand on the armrest, the sound echoing through the studio. And I still don't play by their rules. But there's a difference between breaking rules and breaking everything. You want to know what happens when you refuse to work with anyone? You end up isolated, ineffective, and forgotten. Is that what you want? Greene didn't flinch. I'd rather be forgotten for standing by my principles than remembered for abandoning them. And you know what? The people who voted for us, they feel the same way. They're tired of politicians who talk big during campaigns and then disappear into the Washington machine. The Washington machine, Trump repeated mockingly. That's a great talking point, Marjorie. Really powerful stuff. But talking points don't pass legislation. Talking points don't secure the border. Talking points don't fix the economy. Neither does cozying up to the same people who've been destroying this country for decades, Greene fired back. You want to talk about the border? Let's talk about it. How many times did your own party members stab you in the back on funding? How many times did they undermine you? And now you want to work with them? Trump leaned forward, his voice dropping to a dangerous level. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know the half of what goes on behind closed doors. You don't know the deals that have to be made, The conversations that have to happen. You just see everything in black and white. Maybe that's because it is black and white, Greene said. You're either fighting for the American people or you're not. You're either keeping your promises or you're breaking them. There's no gray area in that. Stephanopoulos sensed an opening. Mr. President, which promises specifically is Congresswoman Greene referring to? What does she believe you've broken? Trump's eyes never left Greene. Why don't you ask her? She seems to have all the answers. Greene accepted the challenge without hesitation. The wall. You promised a wall and you didn't finish it. Draining the swamp. The swamp is deeper than ever. Holding people accountable. How many people from the previous administration faced any real consequences? How many? Are you serious right now? Trump's voice escalated. I fought for that wall every single day. I was blocked by my own party, by the courts, by everyone. But I got more wall built than anyone thought possible. And as for accountability, I tried. I pushed. But you can't prosecute people when the entire justice system is rigged against you. So what's different now? Greene challenged. Why should anyone believe it'll be different this time? Why should they trust that you won't just compromise again the first time someone pushes back? Because I learned, Trump said emphatically, I learned who can be trusted and who can't. I learned how the system works and how to work around it. That's what experience does. It makes you better, stronger, smarter. Or it makes you cautious, Greene countered. It makes you careful. It makes you exactly like everyone else who came to Washington promising change and left having changed nothing. The accusation landed hard. Trump's face contorted with anger, his voice rising to a near shout. How dare you? How dare you compare me to them? I gave up everything for this movement. My business, my reputation, my peace of mind. I took arrows from every direction and I never stopped fighting. And this is the thanks I get? Being told I'm like everyone else? I'm not comparing you to them, Greene said, her own voice rising to match his intensity. I'm warning you that you're becoming them. I'm telling you that every time you make another deal, every time you soften your message, every time you tell people like me to tone it down, you're moving further away from what made you special. What made me special, Trump shot back, was that I won. I beat Hillary Clinton when everyone said it was impossible. I changed the entire political landscape of this country. I exposed the fake news media for what they are. I appointed conservative judges. I rebuilt the military. I cut taxes. I made America respected again. That's what made me special, not refusing to compromise on anything ever. But you're not in office now, Greene said, and the statement cut through the argument like a knife. And maybe that's because somewhere along the way, the people who believed in you started to wonder if you believed in yourself anymore. The studio went completely silent. Even Stephanopoulos seemed stunned by the directness of the attack. Trump's face went from red to almost purple, his hands gripping the armrests of his chair. That is the most insulting, ridiculous, outrageous thing anyone has ever said to me on television, Trump said slowly, his voice shaking with barely contained rage. I have never, not for 1 second, stopped believing in myself or this movement. The reason I'm not in office is because the election was stolen, and you know it. Then why aren't you acting like it? Greene pressed. Why aren't you fighting like someone whose presidency was stolen? Why are you sitting here telling me to be more moderate when they literally took everything from you through fraud and corruption? Trump stood up slightly from his chair before sitting back down, his agitation clear. I am fighting. I fight every single day, but I'm also trying to make sure we win the next time. I'm trying to make sure we don't make the same mistakes. The mistake wasn't being too bold, Greene said. The mistake was trusting people who didn't deserve trust. The mistake was thinking the system would ever give us a fair shake. The mistake was believing we could win by playing their game. Stephanopoulos interjected, his voice cutting through the tension. Mr. President, do you believe Congresswoman Greene represents the future of the Republican Party, or a fringe element that needs to be marginalized? Trump paused, the question clearly designed to force his hand. Greene stared at him, waiting for his answer, her expression unreadable. I think, Trump began carefully, that the Republican Party is big enough for a lot of different voices. But I also think that if we want to win, we need to focus on issues that matter to everyday Americans. kitchen table issues, the economy, crime, education. Not conspiracy theories and extremism. Greene's eyes widened. Conspiracy theories? So now that's what we're calling it? Asking questions is conspiracy theories? Demanding investigations is extremism? Mr. President, you spent years calling out media lies, and now you're using their language against your own supporters. I'm calling out things that hurt us, Trump said. I'm calling out things that make it impossible for normal people to support us without being labeled as crazy. Then maybe, Greene said, her voice cold now, you care more about what the media thinks than what the people think. Maybe you care more about being accepted by the establishment than being true to the movement that put you in power. Trump exploded. I don't care what the media thinks. I've never cared what they think. But I do care about winning. And I'm not going to let people who don't understand strategy destroy our chances because they'd rather be pure than be victorious. There it is, Greene said, almost triumphantly. Victory over principle. Winning over truth. That's the new message, isn't it? Just tell people what they want to hear, make whatever deals you need to make, and worry about the consequences later. That's not what I said, Trump insisted. You're twisting my words. I'm repeating them back to you, Greene countered. And if they sound bad, maybe that's because they are bad. Stephanopoulos attempted to regain some control over the interview. Let me ask you both this. Can the Republican Party survive with this level of division between its most prominent figures? Trump answered first, his tone still heated but slightly more measured. The party will survive because it has to. Because the alternative is letting the radical left destroy everything this country stands for. But survival requires unity. And unity requires people understanding that we're all on the same team. Are we, though? Greene interrupted. Are we really on the same team when we fundamentally disagree about what we're fighting for? When one of us thinks we should compromise with the enemy and the other thinks we should defeat them? There you go again, Trump said, exasperation evident in his voice. Everything is war with you. Everything is battle. But governance isn't just about fighting. It's about building coalitions, making progress, getting things done. Greene shook her head firmly. They're not going to let you build coalitions, Mr. President. They're not going to let you make progress. They proved that already. They impeached you twice. They raided your home. They've indicted you multiple times. And you think they're going to suddenly start playing fair if you just moderate your message? I think, Trump said slowly, that we can win despite them. But we can't win if we're constantly shooting ourselves in the foot with unforced errors. Unforced errors, Greene repeated. That's what you call standing up for what's right. That's what you call refusing to back down. I wonder what the people watching this right now think about that. Trump turned slightly toward the camera, addressing the audience directly. I think the people watching this understand that I've fought harder for them than any president in history. I think they understand that I've sacrificed more than anyone. And I think they understand that winning the next election is more important than winning every single argument. Greene also turned to the camera, her intensity undiminished. And I think the people watching this remember why they supported him in the first place. They remember the fighter who didn't care what anyone thought. They remember the person who said he'd never let them down. And I think they're wondering where that person went. The direct appeal to the viewers created an almost surreal moment, with both of them speaking past each other to the audience at home. Stephanopoulos let it hang for a moment before redirecting. Mr. President, can you support Congresswoman Greene's re-election? The question was direct, unavoidable. Trump's hesitation spoke volumes. Greene watched him, her expression a mixture of defiance and something that might have been disappointment. I support Republicans who help Republicans win, Trump finally said. I support people who understand that the bigger picture matters more than personal grievances. That's not an answer, Greene said quietly, and for the first time, her voice carried a hint of something other than anger. But I guess it tells me everything I need to know. Trump turned to face her directly. You want an answer? Fine. I'll support you if you stop making it harder for us to win. I'll support you if you start thinking about how your actions affect the entire party. I'll support you if you prove that you care more about the movement than your own profile. My own profile, Greene said. and now there was genuine hurt mixing with the anger. "I've lost friends over this. I've been threatened. My family has been targeted. I've been kicked off committees, censured, attacked relentlessly by the media, and by members of my own party. And you think I'm doing this for my profile?" "I think you love the attention," Trump said bluntly. "I think you love being the center of every controversy. And I think you've convinced yourself that being controversial is the same thing as being effective." Greene stood up from her chair. For a moment it seemed like she might walk off the set. Stephanopoulos started to say something, but she held up a hand. "I'm not leaving," she said, "because unlike some people, I don't run away when things get uncomfortable. Mr. President, you want to know what I love? I love knowing that somewhere out there, there's a single mother who's struggling to pay her bills because of inflation, and she's watching this, and she sees someone actually fighting for her. I love knowing that there's a veteran who feels forgotten by his government, and he sees someone who won't stop demanding answers. I love knowing that there are millions of Americans who feel voiceless, and I'm trying to give them a voice." "That's very touching," Trump said, sarcasm dripping from his words. "But feelings don't win elections. Results do. And your results are giving the Democrats ammunition and making moderates run away from us." "Then maybe we don't need moderates," Greene said defiantly. "Maybe we need people who actually believe in something. Maybe we need to stop chasing people who will never support us anyway, and start energizing the people who already do." Trump laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You really believe that, don't you? You really think you can win elections by only appealing to the base? That's not how math works, Marjorie. You need more votes than they have. That requires expanding the coalition, not shrinking it. I'd rather have a smaller coalition of people who actually stand for something than a larger coalition of people who stand for nothing," Greene responded. Stephanopoulos sensed the conversation was reaching its natural conclusion. "It seems clear that you two have fundamentally different visions for the party. Can this be reconciled?" Both of them were quiet for a moment. Trump spoke first, his voice tired now, the anger seeming to have burned itself out somewhat. "Everything can be reconciled if people are willing to listen and learn. But it requires humility. It requires recognizing that maybe, just maybe, you don't have all the answers." Greene met his gaze steadily. "I've never claimed to have all the answers, Mr. President, but I know what I believe, and I know why I believe it. And I'm not going to apologize for fighting for those beliefs, no matter who tells me to stop." "Even if it costs us elections?" Trump asked. "Even if it costs me everything," Greene replied, "because some things are more important than winning. Like integrity, like honesty, like keeping your word to the people who believed in you." The final exchange hung in the air, heavy with implication. Trump shook his head slowly, looking almost disappointed. Greene remained standing, her posture rigid, unyielding. Stephanopoulos wrapped up the segment. "Mr. President, Congresswoman Greene, thank you for this candid discussion. I think you've given viewers a lot to think about regarding the future of your party." As the interview concluded, neither Trump nor Greene made any move to shake hands or exchange pleasantries. They simply gathered their things and exited in opposite directions, the divide between them now undeniably public and seemingly irreparable. The confrontation laid bare a fundamental rift that goes far beyond two personalities clashing. It exposed deep questions about the soul of a movement, about whether principles or pragmatism should guide political action, about whether purity or victory matters more. These are questions without easy answers, questions that supporters on both sides are grappling with right now. What's clear is that this wasn't just political theater. This was real frustration, real disagreement, real concern about the direction and future of their party. The anger wasn't manufactured for the cameras. The tension wasn't scripted. This was two people who once stood together, now finding themselves on opposite sides of an unbridgeable gap. The fallout from this interview will echo through political circles for a long time. The clips will be played and replayed, analyzed and dissected. People will take sides, draw conclusions, make predictions about what this means moving forward. But the most important question isn't about the two people in that studio. It's about the millions of Americans watching and trying to figure out which vision of leadership they believe in. So what do you think? After watching this confrontation unfold, where do you stand? Do you believe in fighting without compromise, or do you think winning requires strategic flexibility? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future coverage. Which approach do you think will ultimately prove successful?